Doom v. Vamus v. Vamus Epicureans. This is the BCE Comics Pod one-shot edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
Usually I'd like to say pretty good, but, when we're recording this, we just got the news yesterday that Sal Buscema passed away, which, sad day. Did Sal do anything on the X-Men? No, he did. He did one of the annuals that we read already, didn't he? Like one of the first annuals we read?
I'm not sure about that. I know that there's some issues of Spectacular Spider-Man where the original X-Men team up with Spider-Man that he did.
Maybe that's where it was, a Marvel team-up that the X-Men were in. Maybe
Could
it's
be.
something like
Yeah,
that.
I don't remember specifically in the ones that we've done through the read-through, but yeah, I mean, just absolute legend. I mean, he's one of those artists that I've been sort of seeking out as I've been getting all these sort of collected editions. I've had no interest in the Defenders, for instance. The only reason I have 4 or 5 of those epics on my shelf is because of his art. I had to get that Spectacular Spider-Man omnibus when that came out. I mean, that was a must buy for me. I always enjoyed his art back then on Spectacular. I'm looking forward to them collecting more. We're going to start to read some of the Hulk volumes that we already had planned for next month that he's the main artist on.
Okay, yeah,
so he takes over around 192, or I forget exactly, but somewhere in the 190s on Hulk in this volume, which is the one before what we're reading. And then the one that we're reading, I have upstairs. So I don't have it next to me.
Yeah, that's all right. It's right here.
He's the primary artist.
So,
and for a while too. He does it for a couple volumes, I think.
Yeah. Well, anyone who might be new to our videos, we do a full read through of a big collected edition once a month. So this next one coming is going to be Dark Avengers. That's February 8th, I think.
8th.
And then that Hulk one will be March 8th. And if you're interested in choosing what we're going to do, we've got a poll up on YouTube. Go ahead and find that. But, sad about Sal. I think I mentioned in one of our previous shows that when I was younger, I wasn't a huge Sal fan, and I want to go back and punch myself because looking at his artwork nowadays, it's just, it is excellent. It's really good. Sad to see him go, but a lot of those Silver Age guys are passing. It's getting to be that time, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, I remember not being the biggest fan of when people were teaming up with him. So in the Clone Saga, towards the end of that, there was a lot of like Bill Sienkiewicz or other people kind of like either inking his pencils, or he would do the, what do they call it, where they don't do the full pencils?
The layouts.
Layouts, and then somebody would go over top of the layouts and stuff like that. And it just didn't feel like him to me, right? So, but there's so much good stuff out there that he did. I mean, he was just a workhorse at Marvel for so many years. So,
yeah. Well, shall we bring it on to happier news and get into today's issue?
Let's do it.
All right, so once again, we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club. This one shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is Uncanny X-Men Annual number 7, Scavenger Hunt. This is written by Chris Claremont, pencils by Michael Golden, and inks by a menagerie of the Marvel bullpen. Also, Elliot Brown is the editor instead of our regular editor, Luis Jones, and this is because this book is part of the Assistant Editors Month event at Marvel. You can't quite tell that looking at the cover. Usually they had some little box or something on there that said, but this one, I'm not sure exactly how they planned getting an annual in as part of that, but they did. Anyway, the idea behind Assistant Editors Month was that all the editors at Marvel had flown out to I think it was the San Diego Comic-Con, and thus they left the assistant editors in charge. And so we get a lot of weird and silly books coming out this month. The way the epics are mapped, we don't actually get the X-Men's regular issue as part of this event until next volume. That's issue number 177. But the Assistant Editors Month, this is where we get some rather infamous issues like the Dave Letterman appearance in Avengers 239, Aunt May becomes the Herald of Galactus in Marvel Team-Up number 137, and Fred Hembeck draws the Spectacular Spider-Man number 86. At least those were the standouts to me. Alright, as for this issue, the X-Men are confronted by Galactus, except that he's green, and he steals their house. Well, it turns out that this is actually the Impossible Man, and he's running around the Marvel Universe stealing all kinds of weird and sometimes naughty things. Well, it turns out that the Impossible Man established a new home with his wife and offspring, but they couldn't decide on who their leader would be, so they went on a scavenger hunt to see who could collect the coolest stuff. Well, Lilandra intervened and acted as judge over this contest to ensure the Pop-Puppians would return all of their stuff and also prevent an intergalactic war. All right, Stojr, what are your thoughts on this one?
So I went into this issue expecting this to be like the one clunker in the whole volume, right? We've had so many good hits in these volumes, but for me, as I read it, I kind of got sucked into the story. It was kind of simple. And watching Mr. Mxyzptlk, I mean, the Impossible Man, kind of bounce around here, and all the sort of behind the scenes stuff, the well drawn, creative teams, and see kind of what people look like back then that were actually working at Marvel, bouncing around to like different characters like Nick Fury and Vanessa, having some fun on the Shield helicarrier. I mean, this was just kind of a fun issue. I almost like can't help but like enjoy it. So I had a good time reading through this. I thought it was there was a lot of good stuff in here, a lot of good behind the scenes stuff. We get some little that I think that is that Burt Reynolds towards the end?
Yes, at the very end. Oh no, wait, no, Tom Selleck. That's Tom Selleck.
That's Tom Selleck.
Right? Yeah, that's who the girls have a crush on.
But we get a little Garfield cameo and things like that. So it's silly, it's stupid, but it's an annual, and it's these aren't expected to all be serious stories in here all the time. I thought this was a pretty fun read. What did you think?
Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed it. Now I think had I known going into it that it was part of the assistant editors month thing, I probably would have been prepared for the joke a little bit earlier. Initially, I thought, wait a minute, this is weird having the Impossible Man in here. But it was great fun. It's weird, it's silly. If you know the Marvel Universe, it's full of little Easter eggs, like stealing all of the Wasp's costumes, right, of all things. I thought it was great. It was perfect for what they were doing with Assistant Editors Month. I especially enjoy that sequence when they were tearing through the Marvel offices and incorporating some of themselves as the characters. Let me see if I can pull this up. There was something sorry, I'm going to get the comic viewer up here in a second. Michael Golden is our... the comic viewer did not... I hate how it does this sometimes. I set it up, and then it doesn't... Oh, those are my notes. There we go. I set it up.
Behind the scenes stuff in the issue and in the podcast.
That's right. I had set up the whole scene, and then I changed something with my camera or whatever, and then it broke everything. All right, anyway, here on page 390, we actually get our appearance of Michael Golden. And, of course, he's complaining about all the weirdos in New York. So, he incorporates himself in here, and I'm sure that was part of Claremont's plan. I also like that the regular team on the book is on page 395. And once the regular team shows up, the fact that the very next panel is Kitty Pryde looking at the viewer, breaking that fourth wall, saying, we're real sorry. I thought that was, again, silly little way to just engage the audience. Also, Stojr, you had mentioned, remember we talked about that subplot going on about people getting sick, and mind readers in particular seemed to be getting sick, and that you thought there was some throwaway line? Here it is on page 383. It's this one where they're walking in on Emma Frost. Kitty just says it right there. After we captured Mastermind, Professor Xavier learned that Miss Frost had been one of his first victims. He must have created the worst illusion to put her in such a state. sad way to just kind of get rid of that subplot, I think. Again, as a throwaway line, but you're right on that. You remember that correctly.
Yeah, and I wonder, I wonder if in the future when they have her wake up, if they'll kind of explain what he did to her, because he creates these illusions, but why is she in the catatonic state because of that?
Yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, that seems a little weird, but anyway, I thought it was a lot of fun. Let's see. I guess that means we're on to bonus material for this issue now, huh? Because
there's a lot in this one.
There is a lot in this one. Let me see if I'll pull the comic viewer back up to the start of it. Yeah, there is there is a ton of entries from the official Marvel handbook. I counted 62 different entries, not 62 pages, but 62 entries. I combined some of the teams into just one entry. And while I'm glad that these are getting reprinted, I would have rather this be in a separate volume of a handbook. I didn't bother reading these. I like them as an easy reference or something where I could read an entry a day or something, but I'm not really a fan of them being tacked on like this, to be honest.
There's a part of me that wishes that the other epics did this more, right? I don't get me wrong, there's been an omnibus of this, and it's a couple volumes, and I would like to see that as epic collections. That feels like better reference material to kind of pull down and kind of flip through and read this stuff. But I guess where when I read this and I saw how much was in here, a part of me was like, well, where's the Avengers epic that's got 62 entries or whatever the number is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate that this stuff's here, and I like it. And yeah, I would probably buy an epic collection of 4 or 5 or whatever number of volumes would fill up. This, I think there's a booster or an update to this.
Yeah.
At some point, 1989 or something like that. I think they did one, maybe another one later. But even something as simple as how to pronounce Karma's name. We talked about that when we mentioned the New Mutants, and she's in here as it's Sean Koyman. So things like the height differences. I mentioned in one of our previous episodes about how tall Colossus actually was, even when he's not in his armored form. So I think this stuff's great. I'm happy it's in here. I just kind of feel a little spoiled in the sense that I wish the other ones had it too, and that's the only thing that makes it feel somewhat out of place, so to speak.
And I know there's an argument about how the handbook hampered things too much for the creators of the Marvel Universe, right? It made things a little too set. But I kind of like it in that it provides that, it makes things more real. We have the layout of the Avengers Mansion in one of these, and you can see that layout when they draw it, right? I've been noticing in issues more and more recently that, you'll see the diving board of the pool and stuff like that. It makes the campus feel like it's a real place and not just kind of a fictional place.
It's interesting. I think sometimes that consistency can be really good. I saw a video today of Alex Ross, and he was talking about how he draws The Thing, and there's a sculptor or another artist, and I don't remember the name, that did a sculpture of The Thing that he really liked, and he took the bust, I think it was just a head sculpture of that, and he scaled it down, and he sort of took a Hulk action figure and built composite or resin over top of it, and then made that into this Thing action figure with the head from the sculpt of the Thing that he really liked. And that's what he has used for the past 20 years to draw The Thing. So when he draws The Thing here, he's always using the same reference. So every little crack in Alex Ross's drawings of The Thing, whenever he does a cover or does this type of book, they're always in the same spot. Now, obviously moved around because he's in motion or what have you, but he's always using that same reference. So there's a consistency to that art that's always kind of the same way. I thought that was really interesting. I don't think everybody needs to constrain themselves like that, but sometimes constraints lead to very positive outcomes.
Yeah, it's when your imagination can fly, when you have limits that you have to work with, right? Okay, I'm scrolling past all the numerous entries to get to what I think is really kind of the highlight of the bonus material personally. This is Neil Adams' original art for God Loves, Man Kills. He did about 6 pages, I think, which we have all of them in here. Looks very different from what we got from Brent Anderson, of course, but Neil Adams is he's so good. So getting to see this is a treat. I love that the X-Men title kind of coming out from Xavier's mind. That's just cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I kind of like more than what we got. I mean, I my exposure to Neil Adams has been his later career, so I'm not the biggest Neil Adams fan. I kind of have to go back and look at some of his X-Men stuff in more detail and get some of his Batman work and stuff like that. But some of the things that he's done in the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 years like weren't my cup of tea. So similar to other artists that like you look at their later stuff, it's not the same as their beginning. It's a big difference.
This might be a gap for me. What's some of the more recent things Neil Adams has done? I honestly have never really thought about
There
it.
was a, I think there was a Batman mini series that he did within like in the 2000s, so
Mm-hmm.
within the last 20 years. I don't remember exactly when, um, and I could probably look it up and find the name of it. But yeah, there was that's the one that comes to mind. There's probably something he did for Marvel, but I can't remember what that is. But yeah, he's done a couple of small things. I'm pretty sure this century.
Okay. All right. Well, in addition to this, we get an essay and an interview with Chris Claremont, which was included in the extended cut of God Loves, Man Kills, which was originally published in 2020. Interestingly, we don't get the extra 10 pages that are in the extended cut. I think we've made mention of that before. Maybe that's going to get included whenever the Magneto miniseries is tied into an epic collection. Who knows? But yeah, we get those essays in there. We get some pinups from Marvel Fanfare, an unused cover, and some trade paperback covers. I'd say this is probably one of the more unique selections of bonus stuff I think we've gotten. Maybe excessive on the handbook stuff, but still rather unique.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not complaining about this. Like, and looking at some of these modern epics that just have like a couple little things in there, the fact that this has so much depth and it doesn't feel like it's filler in the sense that, like, if they didn't give us that, yeah, it'd be a thinner epic collection, but I don't know that we'd necessarily be complaining about it, right? There's so
Mm-hmm.
much quality in this book that I'm okay with it. And I also think that from a break point of of artists changing with JRJR coming on board just at the end of those last 8 pages or so, it makes perfect sense, right? You can look at this one as like this is almost completely Paul Smith, and then pick up the next one. JRJR is the main artist going forward.
Yep. No. Perfectly agree with that. All right. So our final ratings here. I thought this was an enjoyable volume. I can't think of any issue that I thought was bad or disappointing. However, I can't think of any storyline that met incredible dramatic heights, at least not for me. I think the highlight of the volume is the Wolverine miniseries, which was weaved into the regular X-Men book very well. And of course, there is the graphic novel God Loves, Man Kills, which is a seminal work, but it's also a standalone work, which is great, and I'm happy that it's here. And I'm happy that it is a standalone work. And I seem to recall that some of that is going to get weaved into the X-Men tapestry at a later date. But Claremont also started some threads here that he just dropped or didn't explain well, like the mind reader thing being affected by something. And I think that detracts a little bit. And if we're talking about the volume as a whole and not just the stories, again, I think the excessive amount of Marvel Handbook there, I would have rather had as a separate volume. Maybe not so much filler, but I don't know. I already expressed my complaints on that. So I am going to give this a high rating still. I'm giving this a 9.0. It is excellent stuff. I have small quibbles. All right, Stoger, what do you think?
So I struggled with rating this against the Fate of the Phoenix, and I'm trying to not overly concern myself with how I'm rating things against each other. But these two volumes were the ones that I knew were going to go neck and neck. And when I look at everything that this volume brings to the table. I see those Marvel Handbook pages as a plus. I see that as bonus material on steroids. I think that's amazing. When I think of the Wolverine miniseries and how that makes you feel like it's truly Wolverine. You see him on his own. It's much more mature. You get a different take of the art. You get to see that juxtaposed by him. Part of the team, right? The perfect connection of the last issue of the Wolverine miniseries going into the next issue of Uncanny X-Men, and just the poignant nature, as you said, the seminal work of God Loves Man Kills, and having all of this in one collection. Oh yeah, by the way, Paul Smith's art is just, for me, this at this time is just the way I think of the X-Men, right? It's him and Byrne for me during this era. Even JR, who I'm a huge fan of, is not like, I don't think of as highly as I do Byrne's work and Paul Smith's work here. And there's really no clunkers in this entire Epic collection. I was a little worried getting up to that annual, like I said earlier, but I think that this might be the perfect X-Men Epic collection. I don't think there's anything dragging you down. I think having the storyline with the Morlocks being introduced is such an interesting angle to add to the X-Men. It's not that you're the underdog anymore. It's that there's somebody underneath you, and what are you going to do now with that? I think that brings in such an interesting layer, and there is a bit of nostalgia for that because that was probably one of the first X-Men stories that I had read as a kid and sort of latched onto. So I'm going to give it a 10. I'm going higher than the Fate of the Phoenix by a little bit. I gave that a 9.5. I don't think anything's going to beat it. I think there'll be things that'll tie it. I'm going 10.0.
Unless we decide to break out the Spinal Tap method and go for 11 at some point, but I don't foresee that happening. All right, well, combined then, our rating is going to be a 9.5. So combined rating, that will tie with Fate of the Phoenix, but you know what? That's good for averages. I don't know the scientific name for all that. I'm an historian, not a scientist. Anyway, excellent volume. I'm looking forward to where we're going to go from here. And if you guys have enjoyed our thoughts, again, follow us on YouTube. We're going to read, rate, and review a full big collected edition once a month, plus these daily one-shots. Thank you, like, subscribe, all that other stuff that, every podcast in the world tells you to do. All right, so is there any final thoughts?
No, I think we're good. Looking forward to the next volume.
All right, that's it for now. We'll see you guys next time.